Greetings Internet, I'm Ben's cherished bosom buddy Brickroad, and I'm here to sell you on one of the best RPGs available on the Game Boy Advance, Camelot Software's Golden Sun. Did I say one of the best on the Game Boy Advance? Because I'm pretty sure that I meant to say one of the best ever, period. In the 90s, Camelot was best known for developing the Shining series on various Sega consoles, but these were mainly strategy RPGs that weren't really aiming for that rich, juicy Final Fantasy market. Their first foray into the traditional RPG genre was the execrable Beyond the Beyond for the PS1. Nobody with any taste actually cares for Beyond the Beyond, but if you sit down and play it, you can sort of get the sense for the types of gameplay they were trying to put together. Fortunately for us, many of those ideas were set to simmer and were eventually realized 6 years later in Golden Sun. If you're not familiar with Golden Sun, you may have been inadvertently introduced to its hero Isaac when he and his giant yellow hand showed up in Smash Bros. Brawl for the Wii. The Yellow Hand is an example of synergy, which sits at the heart of both Golden Sun's story and its gameplay. Isaac and his pals are adepts, people capable of using magic derived from the four bog-standard RPG elements that we all know and love: Earth, Fire, Wind, and Water. Early on in the game, some bad guys crash Isaac's village and steal the magical MacGuffins needed to fire the beacons of the four elemental lighthouses. Long story short, this will cause all sorts of bad juju in the Golden Sun world, and it's up to four plucky heroes to stop the bad guys, retrieve the MacGuffins, and keep the lighthouses dark. Isaac's foil is his childhood friend Felix, who has fallen in with the bad guys and is on the opposite side of this whole elemental lighthouses debate. Which brings us to Golden Sun's big hairy secret. Isaac's adventure only tells half the story, and in fact rolls credits after the second of four lighthouses. Things pick back up with Felix in another part of the world in the second Golden Sun game, The Lost Age. The Lost Age isn't a sequel to Golden Sun so much as its second half. The games look and play identically. Each hero's party consists of one character for each of the four elements, and you can't pick up the second game without finishing the first if you're actually hoping to follow the plot. So if the story, characters, and gameplay are seamless from one cart to the next, that just leaves the finicky business of importing your data. This sorcery is accomplished with the GBA's link cable, but you don't own two GBAs and a link cable, so you're going to have to wrestle with the cartoonishly cumbersome password system instead. Finish Golden Sun and the game spits out 3 passwords of increasing complexity. The more stuff you want to carry over, the longer you're going to be hunting and pecking. The game mercifully removes similar looking characters, so you won't accidentally mix up your uppercase I's with your lowercase L's, but you're still tapping in 6 pages worth of password one letter at a time. This ordeal can take upwards of 30 minutes, so make sure you copy everything down properly the first time. Now, I claimed Golden Sun as one of the best RPGs ever, and that's a statement I'll stand by to my dying breath. Most good RPGs fall into one of two groups. Either the battles are fun but there's no exploration, or the world is interesting but the battles are dull. Golden Sun manages to make both the exploration and combat aspects worthwhile by taking some simple ideas and executing them brilliantly. The heart of Golden Sun's gameplay, both in and out of combat, is the hero's synergy. Powering that synergy are cute little monsters called Djinni, which are found scattered all over the world. Heroes can equip Djinni to improve their stats and to unlock new magic powers. Different combinations of Djinni yield unique sets of abilities for each character, providing an extraordinarily deep system for the number-crunching grognards among us. That depth is purely optional though. If you're more of a fire and forget style gamer, you can just equip each Earth Djinni to the Earth hero and so on down the line, and your party will always stay fairly well balanced. Thus the gameplay is only as complex as you want it to be. Once you get into a battle, you'll find a familiar turn-based setup with a couple of twists. Characters can either attack, cast a spell from their list of synergy, or unleash one of their equipped Djinni. Each Djinni has its own unique effect, but unleashing one means losing any stat boosts or synergy that it was giving you. You can take an action to equip one of the Djinni you're holding in reserve, or you can combine them to form extremely powerful summoning attacks. Everything about Golden Sun's combat is a precarious balancing act. You can't unleash Djinni without sacrificing your core stats, but you can't use your most powerful attacks unless some of your Djinni are waiting in reserve. There's a lot of give and take in this system. The strategy is certainly a cut above most other RPGs. Even the basic attack and synergy commands have unique twists to them. Along the way, you'll find artifact weapons that randomly unleash added effects, like extra damage or status ailments. This would be a negligible bonus in most RPGs, but Golden Sun really makes it an important part of combat. Since all 4 heroes can pull their weight with the attack command, the game avoids the tired cliche of the magic user who is mostly useless because you don't want to waste all her mana before the boss fight. When you do reach for those synergy spells, Golden Sun incorporates a novel targeting concept. Spells that can hit multiple targets have a specific range. The monster at the center of the blast takes the most damage, and the further a target is from the spell's flashpoint, the less damage they sustain.
This goes for enemy spells targeting your party as well, so you won't commonly find yourself in situations where your entire team is devastated by a boss's single attack, leaving you to pray for quick healing spells in the next round. One aspect of the battle system that has turned a lot of players off is the lack of an auto-target. If you tell two heroes to attack the same monster and one of them kills it, the other hero's action is wasted for that round. What the game is really doing here though is discouraging you from mindlessly hammering the attack button over and over and over. You can win the game like that, but it's more effective to pay attention and use your abilities creatively, not to mention more fun. The crown jewel of Golden Sun's gameplay though is its dungeons. These are some of the most imaginative dungeons ever to grace an RPG. Each dungeon is packed with puzzles and tricks, and not the kind of puzzles and tricks you're used to. These ain't your granddaddy's block pushing puzzles here, folks. Solving a Golden Sun puzzle means inhabiting the game world and really looking at how the pieces fit together. You'll create stepping stones and fiddle with water-filled pipes. You'll navigate whirlpools and mazes of moving gears. When direct interaction with the world isn't enough to solve a puzzle, it's time to reach for synergy. Isaac's giant yellow hand is actually the move synergy, which allows him to move a heavy object without physically touching it. That ability alone can be stretched in enough directions to merit a decent-sized puzzle game, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. Between them, Isaac and Felix learn enough synergy to interact with their environments in over 20 unique ways, from summoning whirlwinds and hammering stakes, to growing vines and creating frozen pillars. Solving a dungeon in Golden Sun is every bit as rewarding as any Zelda game you care to name, and often more so considering the sheer range of actions available to you. I sort of glazed over the story earlier, and that's because it's mostly inconsequential. This is pretty typical fantasy setting fare, magic forces and ancient sealed powers and all that jazz. In an RPG with such rich gameplay, a thin story is to be expected, and maybe even desired. Unfortunately, what Golden Sun's plot lacks in depth, it makes up in sheer weight. The cutscenes in Golden Sun are excruciating, and there are a lot of them. The intro scenes in particular have a crushing amount of dialogue, none of which is very interesting. Even cranking the text speed all the way up doesn't help a lot, since characters can have entire conversations with nothing but head nods and emoticons. And every few seconds, some idiot turns to the hero and asks a completely pointless yes-no question, which you must then answer for no reason other than to force you to press a button. "Sir Isaac, dost thou love me? But thou must!" Really though, you'll have a great time even if you don't care whether it's a good idea to fire the lighthouses or not. If you can keep yourself awake long enough to push through the intro and get into that first dungeon, you'll be hooked. Now's as great a time as ever to scrounge up some copies and play through them too, what with the recent announcement of Golden Sun DS. If this new chapter in the Golden Sun saga brings half as much dungeon delving and Ginny juggling as the first two, it'll be well worth the wait. That wraps up this RPG-tastic episode of Video Game Takeout. I've been your host, Brickroad, and if you've enjoyed my meandering banter, you can find more of it, including a weekly video blog, at my website, skibby.com. Ben will be back next week, just as soon as he's done saving the world from space termites. Until then, stay awesome, Internet.